Greetings, human beings. Welcome to Ancient Light Insights with Xyla JacQuel. And today is Venus Friday. And here, once a month on Venus Friday, we have for you our incredible podcast, Flowering Love with Stardust. Hi, love. Welcome, Stardust.
Pleasure to be here.
Welcome everyone to another Flowering Love on Venus Friday, where we discuss all matters of the heart, love, relationship with your own self, self love, love with your neighbors, your family, romantic love, love with the environment, with the animal kingdom, with the universe, overall love, conditional love versus unconditional love. We dive deep into the matters of the heart, and that's what we do here once a month. And don't forget about our Jupiter Thursday episodes, Expanding Consciousness, all about the awakening, waking up to this new reality, to spirituality, getting out of religions, getting out of indoctrinations, false belief systems, seeing the truth and accepting it, and now moving on. Yesterday, was our episode 3, where we were talking about the New World Order versus the New Earths. So watch those episodes as well, which they relate very much when it comes to matters of the heart. So welcome all. And if you're new here, welcome. Stardust and myself are shamanic Reiki practitioners, master healers, and we are here to share with all of you our insights, our experiences, with the hopes and the intention to inspire, spark something within you that can help to elevate at your own life.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me again, and and thank you guys for showing up because this just means just showing up just means that you're doing the work. So thank you guys for coming and sharing this
Yay!
experience with us.
And thank you so much for that. And I want to say to everyone, first and foremost, I know I've been saying Happy New Year for a while, but officially it is 2022. So Happy New Year. Happy spring season. Fertility, creativity, April season of abundance, of fertility, of creativity, of airy season, fire, igniting, initiating all those dreams and those brainstorming days that we put on into our integration and introspect. Now it's time to take action on things. This is the season of making things happen by action. So that is what Aries season is all about. So take advantage on that wherever it energy of initiation of something new being birthed and coming out into existence at full force and full power with confidence, conviction, and willingness. That's how Mars is. As Mars is Aries, and it is confident and it's ready to go. It's a masculine force. So let us all embrace this, whether you're male or female. It relates to all us because we all have divine masculine and feminine within our spiritual self. Incredible times in the world. We're still in this world of 2022 of unity, community, coming together as a community and entering this new earth. Let's talk about love. Let's get personal. So on our previous episode that was on aired on March the 3rd, we were talking about self-healing. So if you have missed that episode, I would suggest to go back at that one. That way you understand the basics of love because the episodes are barely starting. You can start from the beginning, but in the description, we will have a link to our previous episodes on Flowering Love, which was self healing. Here, we're going to dive deeper into shadow work. We were talking about how Love first starts with the self. Do we love ourselves first and foremost? Because if we don't love ourselves, we cannot love anything else. It starts with the self. It always starts within and
Yep.
working from inside out into the world first self. And also, not to be confused, some people think that they love themselves, but it's an ego based, self centered love. So, identifying the differences between both. We went over and talked about that in that episode. And then we finished it up with how do you begin if you do have unresolved issues, if you feel like there's insecurity, things you hate about yourself, self guilt, self blame, lack of confidence, passiveness, when those are identified, okay, how do we start from there? Shadow work. And that is what today we are going to be talking about, the hot topic of shadow work. Ooh, very
Ooh,
scorpionic.
dark night of the
Very
soul.
plutonium. Everyone is so
Yes.
afraid of that topic. Oh, shadow work. We don't want to. What is that? Sounds like black magic. What is this
Hmm.
shadow work thing? So, today we're going to talk about that. We're going to give a brief explanation on what is shadow work to our own perspectives. And then we're going to give you a few steps on how to begin your shadow work process. With that, I'm going to let Stardust give us his explanation on what is shadow work.
So, in my perspective, shadow work is a way of the ego mind or the ego identification with the self dying and being reborn into the true self. And this is where your old patterns, your old traumas, your old triggers, the old ways of being are being brought to your surface to be seen by your consciousness and awareness, to now be addressed instead of shoved to the side like they have been all those years. You're now here to face your shadow side, your ego, and let go of those patterns or choose to continue down those cycles if you wish. But that is what shadow work is bringing up those things that you've decided to suppress and showing them to you to give you the choice of whether you're going to finally transcend or descend back into that pattern for another lesson. And that's just my take on shadow work. And that's just the first step, the first realization to shadow work, and then going down the line of how to integrate shadow work and move forward with it and heal from it.
Yes, when it comes to the word shadow, it's shadow work. So, what is the shadow? Just like Stardust said, shadow is referred to, you can call it the ego. Some people call it demons. Some people call it negative energy, which negative energy is just feminine energy, by the way. Essentially, is more of the ego, more of behavior or things connected to our root chakra, like the root muladhara, which is the survivalism and makes us act out in situations out of survivalism. So the shadow is what we call the lower self. As human beings, we are multidimensional from density, from the dense bones. Bone is dense, the blood is dense liquid. Density with flesh, there's heaviness to it, and then it comes out the chakra system, which is the conductors that the soul can travel through the vehicle of the body. So there's an energy field, like there's electricity. So it goes all around us. And it's a computer chip right in our brain, the middle of our head, and the top pituitary gland. And this is what activates the consciousness. Expanding consciousness is activating it and making it work better and better, and growing an energy. So you become a big magnet of whatever you want to attract. Very Jupiterian energy. And so that consciousness that consciousness is the higher self. It comes from choices from the higher self. When in the there's the higher self and the lower self that connects more. The higher self connects to our spirit, our soul that is immortal. It never dies. It's just travels realms. It doesn't have a body, it doesn't have a form, it does not have a sex gender. It's androgynous, it's pure, it's magnificent, it's ageless,
Mm.
it's perfect in that realm. Then we come in this to feel and be in the body and have a body and have flesh and be able to die to feel what it is pleasure and pain. And so that lower self is the ego, what we come into the ego. So the ego helps us maintain this body alive because it's organic. It can die either of age, like, or instantly, just because we're just like eggshells, very delicate and can fall and break our head, like break our neck. We're delicate, right? We're very delicate
Yeah.
creatures, very delicate. So that ego is here to protect our bodies, not our destination. And as we begin to grow as human beings, false belief systems, abuse, manipulation, just, from childhood, indoctrination, traumas have been built inside, suppressed, and we continue to grow up not having put closure or release to those traumas. And now the ego or the shadow self tries to come up to cause attention in order to get attention on that issue you never put closure to, try to direct and dictate your life with the fear of dying. So it makes us make bad choices in life because that's not the pilot of our head. So when these shadows come in the surface to disrupt, when people realize that healing is not just the body, when we have to get a surgery, when we get into an accident, when we hurt ourselves physically, that we have to go and heal. Like the spirit inside gets wounded too. There's soul spiritual healing. The chakra systems, the energetic vortexes of energy that allows the spirits to go through the body also get blocked due to those things. And we need spiritual healing. So sometimes people will go to shamanic Reiki healers, if you want to label this as healers, like Stardust and I. And we help doing this. This is part of that. We work with energy as well to help with the shadow work, and we do shadow work with them. That's what we do with you. And the people pay for this because this is a beautiful craft that requires a lot of energy. All fellow healers out there do have an idea. When we open up ourselves as a channel and when it's flowing through you, making sure the ego stays low, a lot of beautiful energy and focus that we do, an openness of it. But we can all do these things to ourselves, not necessarily the healing part, but you can do shadow work with yourself. And it's a beautiful thing. And most of us do already shadow work without even knowing it. So that's the thing. Work. A lot of us naturally do it, and it is talking to yourself. So basically, doing your own work of addressing your own issues. Just sitting there with yourself doing some shadow work. And it starts basically with higher self, lower self into a conversation. A conversation between your higher self and your lower self. How do we do this? We're going to start with a few steps on how to initiate shadow work for those who don't know what this is and have never tried it before. So please, if you already know this, that's great. This is for people who are beginning to do this work now. This is why we created this podcast, because there's a lot of people waking up. We've been doing this craft for several years now, but now more people need the guidance and help them to transit from stepping out of the New World Order matrix, energy draining, enslaved system into a more free, liberated, such as the New Earth. That is shadow work in a nutshell from my perspective and Stardust perspective. we're going to dive into steps to shadow work. I want to leave it to Stardust.
Thank you, JacQuel. So, for anybody going into shadow work, there is steps that are to be taken and not taken lightly. Okay, this is heavy work that is going to bring up a lot of things for you that you may not be ready for. So right now, the first step is to mentally prepare yourself. Are you sure you're ready to do this work? Are you sure you're ready mentally to handle all the emotions and thoughts that are going to come up for you? If there's things that you need to maybe write down, as far as what comes up for you, to help you express it, to help you integrate it, to help you heal it, get a notebook and a pen, write these things down. If it's questions that come to your mind, write these things down. These things are going to help you clear your intuition and clear your memory and your cognitive dissonance, and be able to harmonize both hemispheres of your mind, the left and the right. Because in order for shadow work to be effective and efficient, we must have our mind harmonized as one, because there's two sides. There's the left, the masculine, analytic, logical, and then there's the right, feeling, flowing, imaginative type of side to us. So in order for us to really get into that, we have to prepare ourselves mentally, harmonize our mind mentally, and through meditation and practices of awareness and mindfulness is another way to help you get in tune with yourself, your energy, your higher self, your shadow self. And this is where you start communicating with your soul, your spirit, your intuition, your hearts, your mind, and your body. And it just all blends into this beautiful soup of consciousness and awareness that you can use and utilize to therefore start the healing process of shadow work.
Exactly. You summarized all my pointers into one beautiful soup as you described it.
Thank you.
It was beautiful. I swear. I'm about to go into my pointers and you'll see how beautiful you described all of it into this beautiful soup that you created.
Oh,
Thank you very much. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys steps that I wrote down on how to begin this difficult, painful, and long, time consuming, extremely rewarding work of shadow work, because it is not an easy work. In fact, it's so difficult at times, and this is why we lean into the psychedelic realm, because these medicines of the earth, these entheogen psychoactives and psychedelics that we were blessed with by nature itself, this is the medicine of the spiritual, of the psychological. While here in the hospitals, the medical, the doctors heal the physicality. These medicines were meant for that. Of course, not for everyone. It is a very serious thing with appropriate shamans with expertise, so forth and so on. What I'm trying to get at, the point of this is that it is such a difficult work at times when we have so much. Not everyone has so many traumas. Some of us were born with a lot of traumas and a lot of painful things we had to live through. And those things remain inside, especially when we suppress it and we have never been able to speak it out, process it, put closure on it, forgive yourself, forgive all involved. We didn't do that work at the moment that it happened, and all those times collected, it's like having a bullet inside of you rotting or something, and you need to get it out. It's going to only get worse. You cannot ignore it. It's going to be hurting here and there with these suppressed memories. So what I mean that sometimes the work can take so many years depending on how much trauma we have, that these medicines of the earth, they are there to help make that a faster process. as you are learning what it is to live now, not just your physical self, but your spiritual self in harmony. Because there's steps. People get out of balance with spirituality and start hating, feeling pleasure altogether, and go on to extremes with diet, like veganism for the rest of your life, breatharian for the rest of your life, juicing for the rest of your life. There's nothing that was meant to be for the rest of your life. Everything is called a diet for a reason. It's because it's a temporarily thing. You know, you have a stomach ache, stop eating for 2 days if you need to. It's not for the rest of your life, or is it? So we're going to learn so much in these podcasts. I'm going really raw with it. We're going to be speaking a lot of the truth that people don't want to touch on, that gets swept under the rug. We're going to bring all this truth out. I know for sure that I am. So all these things we're going to be touching on is connected. Expanding Consciousness episode is so important for you to watch as well. All of you, I would highly recommend, because it's just connected. Learning how to love yourself with expanding your consciousness, aware, open, active consciousness is what's going to help you love yourself. Loving yourself requires expanding consciousness. Vice versa. It's all interconnected. We human beings are interconnected. So, step number 1, give time and willingness into it. Are you going to give it time? It's going to take time. Don't worry about how long. How long? I don't know. Some people can do a shadow work in 1 hour. Some people take some 5 years. It depends on the work you put into it and how much work you need to do. Only you know your specific situation. You need to be ready to give that time, not question how long is it going to be. You must be willing to put it 10 years if you have to. You just want to heal that wound, whatever it takes. So willingness. I want this. If you want it and you're committed to do it with conviction, you make it happen. You put time into it. So the first thing is time and willingness. Are you ready for it? Are you ready to do this work? Some people are not ready, and please, I advise everyone here, if you have a person, a loved one that is the one with the issue, do not force people into nothing. First step to self-love is we don't have control, and we talked about this in previous episodes. We don't have control of anybody and no one's choices, and we should not get mad about that. We're all individual people with individual needs, and we should all respect that, and we should all build our own boundaries depending on what we need to protect, and everyone should respect that. We don't owe anyone. We don't try to control anybody but our own emotions and our own feelings. That's what we need to be worrying about controlling. That's the first thing that we help each other be able to love ourselves and others, is to drop the need to control, which I'm saying it because in the past I was extremely controlling as a Scorpio. Now it's really well balanced. When you operate from your higher self, everything has negative and positive. Everything has its negative and positive. Everything, everyone. However, it's maintaining the equilibrium in the middle of the both, not going too extreme into la la land and not going too the extreme into the slumbers. It's like navigating and in between, in the center. Okay, I can go a little, I can go a little negativity, I can go here, and just navigating, playing this game of life, which is a game. So, are you ready for it? If you're not ready for it, or a loved one is not ready for it, stop forcing them. If you are ready to elevate, you need to move on. Maybe. Sometimes we have to leave. This is part of shadow work. Walk away from people that are not going to help us get any better. Like there's just like this selfishness, not selfishness, but yes, like a selfishness mode that you gotta get, you know what, it's time to dedicate to me. I gotta do a shadow work here. So when you do shadow work, you gotta cancel everything else out. You have to dedicate to you, to your heart. It takes a little bit of selfishness, not in an egocentric way. It's just putting yourself first for once. Like, you're number one out of everyone. It's yourself. That's not selfish. That is a reality of life. That's the way the universe wants it to be. It is what it is. We're born under the canal of the vagina. our own, unless we had twins or triplets. But even those twin and triplets are going to die in different ways, different days maybe. So that's the interesting part, that we leave alone either way. Very interesting. So step number 2, and Stardust mentioned this. I love that you mentioned this. This was so important. One of the most important things, and you mentioned grounding and meditation. Connection to nature is going to be very important to practice this habit of connection with nature prior to even hopping into shadow work, because shadow work can bring a lot of dark forces that can create a rage behavior. People react very differently depending on how much abuse they've accumulated throughout the years, how much frustration they got to steam out. So connection to nature, meaning creating a habit, if you don't already have one, of going out on a hike, even if it's 10 minutes, without your phone, without your headphones, without someone accompanying you, you, yourself, and you. That is it, you and nature. Disconnecting literally, and having at least time to disconnect, unplug, and be able to filter yourself. Sit down on the grass, breathe in deeply, because the body and the spirit starts to prepare to do shadow work, and it keeps you grounded. So when dark forces comes, these dark energies come strong and want to overwhelm you, you feel grounded enough. So the practice of grounding and connection to nature. Meditation, this is very important now, because you're doing shadow work. The more you meditate, the more you open your consciousness. That's one of the biggest steps to expanding consciousness and even activating it. Awareness overall is meditation. Meditation is going to help you clear the mind for mindfulness, clarity, and peace. When you meditate, you gain clarity. You're a lot more clear about what's happening in the picture, which allows you to process it and make a better choice when it's clear for you. When you are in peace, meditation brings peace, inner peace. When we're at peace, we can accept difficulties a lot better than when we are not. So the importance to begin to practice these two, grounding and meditation. Grounding meaning nature connection, time alone with nature, sitting on the ground, planting your spine onto the earth, sitting by a tree, breathing that in, and meditating, closing your eyes, even if it's for 2 minutes per day. That is a difference. Doesn't take a whole half an hour. Just that. Step number 3 is my favorite and my most effective one that has ever been in my years doing shadow work with myself. Name your ego. When we start learning about false spirituality and all of that we'll get into later on, and expanding consciousness, we will realize that there's a lot of bad advice, literally like detrimental advice by spiritual community out there, like killing your ego and destroying your ego, like you must not have an ego. Like, this is craziness. Because the ego is what connects us to the earth. You cannot be so in la la land and space land 24/7. It's ungrounded, it's out of balance. So if you're on a diet juicing your whole life, whether it's veganism or meat only for your whole life, only meat every day, or no meat at all, or breatharianism, like I'm here 17 years and I haven't ate. Well, you better fucking eat right now. Here's a fucking plate and eat. Be grateful to Mama Gaia, Mother Earth, because she burns every day. Being out of balance with being spiritual, which we will see a lot of that. People going in extremes with their diets. Everything is a temporarily thing. And we can go back to the earth. We're here to enjoy the pleasures of life. I went celibate 3 years. So I understand what it is to go on a diet for spiritual reasons, to open up the conscience, to heal. I've been without water and food for 5 days. I understand what this is, but it's not that all my life is going to be like that necessarily, unless that's what I want to choose. But no, is this a temporary thing? So in life-threatening situation where fire is burning, if you get frozen looking at the fire like this and you freeze and you literally burn that way, that's what you get for killing your ego. Like, I'm just trying to say that we all have an ego and God forbid, and God bless us all. I'm just trying to say, this is when the ego plays its role. We're still in this physical life and this body. So the ego plays a big role on you alive. So why make him feel so suppressed? Like, ego, I'm gonna kill you. Like, it's not like that. It's part of who you are. It's what makes you be clean, have hygiene, and look presentable and express yourself. This is your ego. Let's not hate it either. It's putting him in check where he is supposed to work. So stop hating our egos. Let's just stop hating your egos. You just have to put your ego in the seat where he belongs. Okay, there's 2 floors in your office. Your consciousness or your higher self is up here, the pilot of your everything. So the ego's floor is the bottom floor where labor takes place. So let's not hate it. Naming your ego, I have a name for my ego. It's a great way to give him an identity so it doesn't feel like it doesn't belong at all. Having a name for it, so when you're ready to do shadow work, which is talking to yourself, to your lower self, higher self, lower self, having a communication, then you can identify. Your higher self should be what you call yourself, whatever your name is. This is your higher self, if that's what you want to be. So you give your ego a name to put him in check. And we talk to it with love and assertiveness, confidence, and with leadership, but with love and compassion, because it's there to save our lives if we're ever in danger. That was step number 4, talking to your ego. So shadow work is a form of self-talking, talking to yourself. That's why when we see people who lose their minds, in this case, they have psychosis. They recreate that because they lost their consciousness, they lost their mind, and they have a mental disharmony, because this is the one thing that will destroy us, is that isolation from the higher self and the ego. We tend to think we're alone all the time, but we're not really alone. And you can identify yourself with your lower self and the ego and have a communication with them. We all talk to ourselves. We know this, right? Like, don't pretend you don't. We all talk to ourselves, whether inside of our mind or out loud. I talk to myself out loud all the time. Who are you talking to? I'm like, me. That's it. And it's very healthy. And you name yourself. This is what shadow work is. But in this case, you're not just talking to yourself while you're driving like we normally do. That's a little bit of a shadow work. It is. And that's what I meant by, some of you would be like, well, I've naturally done it, so that's great. So we talk to ourselves, but shadow work is more getting deep into it. So we're not just driving and going by our things. We're taking a day to do this by ourselves. Whether it's at your home, whether it's a retreat. People go to retreats sometimes, whether they do a plant medicine to help them, whether they just stay at home and just lock themselves for a whole weekend, what they call like isolation, introspect, cave yourself. That's a beautiful form of self-love and self-healing, doing shadow work. So don't let anyone tell you you're isolating yourself, that's bad for you, that's unhealthy. Don't let anyone tell you that. The body knows when it needs to introspect, just like the stomach knows when it needs to fast. We know when. Just don't be afraid to do it, because out of that cocoon, a lot of insights are going to come out. And besides that, when in the cocoon, wings come out of a butterfly when this process, metamorphosis, happen, which is a shadow work. Metamorphosis process is the shadow work, because in the chrysalis, there's acids that the caterpillar releases to kill itself, is burning itself, and it's hurting. It's a self-destructive force. And that's what shadow work feels like. And then it comes out light. This is what happens when you do shadow work. You feel so much better. I swear, it's so rewarding. You feel lighter. You feel more clear. You feel at peace. And you feel like you can handle shit a lot better. Use my language.
Yes.
You can handle shit a lot better. So shadow work can be done in 2 forms. You can either do it through meditation. You can either lay down, or you can just sit down. You can cover your eyes, or you can just sometimes people do meditation blinds, or close your eyes and just do it within, where you're just imagining a person right in front of you, the ego that you're going to name, and you're just gonna get into your trance state, emptiness, where you can relax your body and imagine this force sitting right in front of you as well. Just right in front of you. And you can mentally, within inside of you, talk to this person, name it by its name, and just begin a conversation with this person. That's one form. There's also the form standing in front of the mirror shadow work, which is one of my favorite, because it's pretty direct, it's pretty intense, and it's powerful. Not for everybody. I do it a lot like this. So you stand in front of a mirror and you just literally You come so close and you just literally just focus. You just start to breathe in and you stare into the eyes of yourself and you breathe and you, yes, you stare into those eyes until you begin to see that person as a separate being. And you just, it's a trance. You can stare at one eye only for a while and then until you're going to see a different person and you're going to feel more compassionate. Like, who is this being? And then you're going to name it. Hi, whatever the name, Lolita. If I want to name my ego Lolita, I don't know. Whatever, right?
Right.
Whatever you want to name your ego. Hey, Johnny. This is as an example. Just, hi, compassion, how are you? And just let your own look answer you. It's all going to be in the
Mm,
face. Don't think it's you, it's somebody else. You're talking, this is your higher self, and you're talking to your lower self. How you been feeling? These are examples of questions. You're looking kind of tired. Be honest with yourself. Critique yourself if whatever you hate yourself. And just remember that you're speaking to another being. And just watch their reaction. Are you shutting them off? Maybe now
mm,
all the questions that you wanted to ask, that face will shut it off. You can see it. Sometimes it shuts down like this. It doesn't want to answer you because there's no trust. So now you have to gain the trust of this person. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not here to judge you. And then maybe they open up. You'll see it in the face. You're going to see it. Sometimes it starts crying like this. That's the part where this happens. Tears pouring and pouring. You have to comfort this person. Now, you forget about that. It's you. It's amazing. Shadow work is on the mirror is something else. It's the most incredible thing I've ever experienced that is so powerful, guys. It's as intense as it gets. Psychedelic experience. It's beautiful. And you can go deep. Shadow worker can scream at each other in a mirror. It can be horrific, like hopefully your neighbors. But yeah, what the fuck you want? It can get that intense. And it's okay. You have to understand maybe that person, the ego is yelling at you, at the higher self, back like that. What the fuck, the higher self should never talk like that to the person. It's gonna come through the mirror. Obviously, it's you doing it, but in your mind, you let him express and release as you're answering back in a compassionate way. The point is that there becomes a conversation between these two individuals where they start to know each other, and the ego that has a lot of pain and hurt can open up now and say, well, all this shit, there was no closure, and I'm feeling this. Okay, I'm gonna help you now. This can take years, my friends. That conversation is a human being. You're not gonna resolve maybe years of issues with your husband or your wife or someone that you know what I mean? Like, this is therapy, counseling. You might have to close that conversation at that. Your ego might be like, I don't want to talk any fucking more. And you might have to say, okay, we talk tomorrow maybe, or in 2 days again. I'll be back. And you have to close it at that. And then come back. Like you said, keep your word because your ego is waiting. If you let him down
mm.
like you did before, you're just only going to hurt yourself worse. This is shadow work, my brothers and sisters.
Beautiful.
Welcome
I
to
love
Shadow
that.
Work Live.
Yes. That was beautiful. I love the way you put all that. That was just like, it painted such a vibrant picture for us to see, you know?
Yeah, thank you. And we've done this very much. Me and Stardust have, when we first met, it was beautiful because when we met at the drum circle over the Mojave, and we were both like talking about, hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm a shamanic Reiki practitioner. Oh, me too. And then we started talking about our dreams and like, what is your goal? Oh, my goal is to have a sanctuary. Me too. And we manifested it that day, by the way. We did. It's happening. And
Yeah.
we share all these beautiful things, and we started talking about, oh yeah, the shadow work that we did, the celibacy we did, the fastings. It was just fascinating to meet someone who's done the work too, and we can share that. And this is why we're here doing this podcast.
Yes,
So yeah.
exactly.
So these are steps of shadow work. This is gonna be deep. So we will dive more into the work of shadow work. What do you think, Star?
Yes.
There's a lot.
Yes, I agree.
We'll see what happens. But if you guys have any particular issue in this topic, post it in the comment. We'll be gladly to bring it up. Also, if you are a fellow healer or you just have a lot of knowledge to share and you want to join us in these podcasts, send us a message and get in touch with us, and maybe we're going to have you at the podcast and join us so you can have an opportunity to share what you have to say in these topics, whether it's the expanding consciousness on Thursdays or flowering love. So right now I'm going to pass it to Stardust. I want him to say a last insight on these steps so that next month on our next episode we can continue this topic on shadow work.
Sounds good. Thank you, JacQuel. So let's close this out, guys. I want to say shadow work is all about realizing what doesn't work for you, what doesn't serve you. Okay? Like we were saying earlier before, it's about really addressing those things that have caused us harm. And sometimes it's going to look like things that felt good. Sometimes it's going to look like things that gave us pleasure in the moment, but then later we regretted it. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that, because a lot of that's going to come up and your ego's going to be like, that was okay. We were fine. We didn't mean it. We didn't hurt that person. They were okay with it the next week or whatever, No, and you have to own up to every little bit that you thought was good, but was really hurting you and somebody else in the process. So
that is so, so important. Sometimes we come first, but being compassionate and loving people, unconditional human beings, even if we have to release them with love and compassion, like he said, we hurt a lot of other people besides ourselves when we make certain choices based on ego. So owning up to your shit, like Stardust says, and taking responsibility for your action on what you did, it's a big step. That's why forgiveness comes. Sometimes we have to humble and apologize and say to someone, I'm sorry. I apologize. Authentically, not just authentically, in order to put closure to these things that keep surfacing. So thank you so much, Stardust. I promised all of you guys and Stardust that I was going to show you guys the emerald for the heart. And here it is. I brought it here for you guys. I explained how the work that I do, especially that I work with crystals. One of the most powerful crystals I've ever worked with for the heart is emerald, a raw emerald. And as I was mentioning before, when you work a lot with a raw emerald, you can try to have personal ones for different people because it collects dark energy to the point where it stains and changes color. And I will show you guys this because this is a beautiful emerald. Look at this, guys. This is pure emerald. This is what it looks like on the raw. And you can't see the color very well, but it's like a greenish, darkish greenish. This is an emerald. See that green there? And when you use this, I used this so much for my shadow work when I started my healing. Look at the darkness. This was not like that. It did not have this dark right here.
wow. Look at that.
Put it right in the heart like this. Look at this. It
Amazing.
turns dark. It collects it and it can fade away. It fades off with time. But this is how powerful a raw emerald is. Very powerful. Do not use it if you're not ready to feel almost depression. It just comes out and it's going to really, really heal. It's like a big heart surgery where it makes a huge difference. So, emerald for everyone. That's a very, very good one. Thank you for inspiring me, Stardust. And let's finish it up with a brief, since we're going a little bit long, I think. But this is a great episode, by the way. Shadow work is a great topic. Like, you can't blame us for going over our time a little bit because there's so much to it, but we will get back at it next month, so stay tuned. And now we're just going to do a brief meditation just so that we can open our hearts and receive all these insight that we've shared with your higher self and allow love to flow through you. Unconditional love for yourself first and foremost and for everything around you. I will have here Stardust sending some of his beautiful Reiki symbols. If you are open to receive, you can tell Stardust, I am open to receive your healing. If not, remain with your hands in Anjali Mudra, and let's begin. So first, I'm gonna light up this Palo Santo, smudging a little bit around us so that we can just clear away all those toxic memories or memories and things that this conversation brought up that don't serve any longer, things from the past and the back around you. It's Palo Santo. It smells so good. This helps, smudges help to clear out the energy that you've released out of your system. And take a deep breath. In gently, hold for one, blow out. Again, take a deep breath. Deeply, gently, hold for one, and exhale. Gently out. One more, and exhale. And keep the breath, maintain breathing in, breathing out gently. Maintain an straight, erect spine, relaxed body, and begin. Just hold your heart. Hold your heart with your left hand, your receiver hand. This is the hand that receives. Inhaling deep and exhaling out. Feel the heartbeat. I'm just going to let you take a minute, just a few seconds, to feel your heartbeat as you breathe in gentle peace. This organ inside your chest keeps you alive. Understand that. And give it thank you. Let's thank our hearts. Thank you, heart. Repeat with me. Thank you, heart. Thank you so much for keeping me alive. Thank you so much, precious heart, for beating in my ribcage, my chest, my anahata aura. Thank you. Help me be compassionate, be kind, be understanding to others' needs and others' boundaries. Help me to be compassionate and understanding with myself and where I am in my journey. Help me open up and understand this message in this podcast, and then may I apply it to myself and my life, to my greater good and the greater good of all, with loving gratitude. Breathe deeply. Blow out. Hold your hands in Anjali together against the chest. And so it is. Mote it be. Always your affirmations, mote them. Always repeat them, follow them with thy will is done. And so it is. Gently put your hands down. Take one more last deep breath. And stretch yourself as you breathe and exhale out loudly. Ah, shoo. Shake your head a little bit and gently open your eyes in a soft gaze. And as always, recognize the beauty that surrounds you. Aho Ashe Namaste to all of you beautiful souls, and to you, Stardust, once again, as always, for being here with us. We'll see you all next month. Love and
Aho
light.
Ashe, namaste.